Howdy. Today's lesson, we're going to take a look at some basic urban models. Now, in AP geography, that's again the geography of the why of where things are. We're going to take a look at some models, and a lot of times you guys cringe because, oh my God, it's all these models. How do we remember all this stuff? But remember, what a model does is it explains to you how things are or why they are. And they're a model because you can find a lot of these things all across the country. There's a lot of things that cities had in common. Obviously, every city's unique, but there are things in common. So we're going to take a look at some of the basic models, and then let's take a look at them in Omaha, where you can then apply what we're talking about, and hopefully you'll understand. Okay, a couple words we got to be clear on. Urban it's a big term. It means anything, basically, town, city, suburban areas, anything other than like country and farming areas, okay? So urban, hey, that's the Sandhills of Nebraska, that's a small town in Custer County or whatever. A city is going to be a bigger thing, okay? Now, you have towns. Bennington is a town or a hamlet. Cities are going to be bigger than that, okay? Omaha is a city. Cities have certain functions and stuff, but the best way, just to keep it simple, it's a big, big town, okay? Suburbs are going to be those areas on the edge of cities that are almost exclusively residential. That's where the people live and then they work in the cities. It's going to be the neighborhoods on the side of cities, like your developments and stuff, like you're around Omaha. That's like, your Hanover Falls, your Waterfords and stuff like that. Suburbs. Now, metropolitan area is the city and everything around it that's connected. So when you say Omaha metropolitan area, hey, Bennington is part of the Omaha area. We're connected to Omaha even though we're not in Omaha's city limits, The metro area includes, if you really think about it, Gretna. That's outside of Omaha, but Gretna and Omaha have connections, okay? It all depends upon how far out you go with the metropolitan area. A lot of people would take a look at Blair, and there's a lot of people from Blair drive the Blair High Road down into Omaha, so that's a connection. The Omaha metropolitan area is also going to include like Papillion, Bellevue, everything around that. If you go to Kansas City, the Kansas City metropolitan area is not just Kansas City, but it's, Blue Mountain, all those cities around Kansas City, Overland Park, Independence, that are connected to the city, but not actually in it. When you talk about St. Louis is not actually a big city. The metropolitan areas, you've got St. Louis, and then you've got all these places around St. Louis. If you take a look at St. Louis, which we'll do later, you'll see all these things like Maplewood and Richmond Heights and Clayton, all these neighborhoods, these towns around St. Louis. But combined, they make the St. Louis area. So with those definitions in mind, let's take a look at some simple models. And again, I know your minds are going, oh, I don't want this on distance learning. Well, we're going to try to take some simple ideas and help you understand them. I want to simplify this stuff. So basically, that's what we're doing. Let's take a look at some simple things. Now, when you look at this picture, there's three models that are really important. It's a college concept. These are ways cities develop. Now, when you look at these, the very first thing you go is, oh my God, how am I ever going to know those things? Let's simplify it. Let's take each model separately and let's explain it, and let's show you each model in Omaha so you understand it. Okay. The first of the models, it's really important, is the concentric zone or bullseye model. The guy that comes up with it is Burgess, Ernest Burgess. Now look at the date, 1925. When Burgess looks at cities around the country, and like Chicago and all, he notices patterns of growth. Now this is in 1925. You got to keep that. It's very important. All right, but he said there's this traditional pattern that cities have. The heart of the bullseye, or number one, is the central business district. That's the downtown area. That's where you have financial, retail, banks and businesses and stuff like that. So if you look at the map, the yellow thing, that's the downtown. That was the heart of the city. That's where all the big business was. Well, now to take a look at Omaha, take a look at Omaha. That in Omaha, if you look at the big picture, you see the skyscrapers. And anybody from any other city look at this and hearing the word skyscrapers in Omaha is laughing. Granted, we're not Chicago or anything, but we have a downtown. And if you look at this map, you can see the big buildings, okay? If you take a look on the map on the right, you'll see our First National Tower, the Woodman of the World. And then if you look, there'll be two brown bricks. It looks like Lego triangles. And then right in front of them is the library, W. Clark Library. That is what our downtown used to be. That was the heart of our downtown. And again, the First National Building, our tallest skyscraper. That's where the banks are. That's where the headquarters are. So in the old days, there's another picture in the middle here on the bottom. That's the Brandeis building. Brandeis at one time was one of the biggest department stores in America, or at least definitely in the Midwest. And in Omaha, that was downtown. And so if you wanted to go in 1925, when this model comes out, if you wanted to buy shoes, you wanted to buy clothes for Easter, you wanted to buy Christmas presents, you wanted to buy stuff, your cameras, you went downtown, and you especially went to Brandeis. That was the big building in Omaha. So when we talk about ring number one, we're talking about downtown, the businesses, economic stuff. Okay. Now, the second ring, ring number two, is also going to be businesses, but this is going to be businesses that need more room. Um, there's a concept that the closer you are to downtown, the more expensive the land is. It's called the bid rent theory. Basically, the land is more desirable downtown, and so the land will be more expensive. As you move out a little bit, you have businesses that need a little bit more room. Downtown, that's where skyscrapers are because they go up. If land is expensive, it makes sense to build straight up. Okay. But ring number two, it's going to be businesses, but not like downtown. So if ring number one is downtown, you got the skyscrapers. Ring number two will be right next to it. And in Omaha in 1925, that's where you had like light manufacturing and warehousing. Kids, that's the old market area in Omaha. If you look at the picture there, the old market was where small grocery stores all across Omaha set people down and they bought fruits and vegetables. That's why you've got the overhangs down there. The old market was where you went and got the fruits and vegetables. Right across, there used to be something called Jobbers Canyon right across 10th Street, and that's where you had all these big warehouses. Um, but the businesses around there, if you guys know by Old Market, if you go over to like where the Hollywood Candy Store is, great store, and you go over to where like Ted and Wally's are, those are going to be areas where you needed a little bit more room. So in Omaha, that's going to be car lots and stuff like that, or early car places, taxi companies. Robert's Dairy over by Creighton, if you look at the picture there, they need a little bit more space. Well, Creighton has grown around Robert's Dairy, and Cumming Street has grown right up to it, which is kind of squeezing it. But once upon a time, that was in that ring number two. And if you look at this picture over here with the water tower on the top, you can barely see it says Ford. That's on Cumming Street down by 17th Street, 16th Street by the stadium. That used to be Ford. Ford built cars and stuff and trucks here in Omaha in that plant, and they go right across the street, basically, and down the street to Badger Body, and they put bodies on them. All the way up until like 1929 when the stock market crashed and demand drops, Ford made vehicles there. This is where we made our beer. Omaha was known for Metz beer, Storrs beer. And if you go just down the street on 16th Street, you can still see the water towers. I mean, the smoke stacks from the Storrs Brewery. So ring number two is going to be light businesses. Now, when you move out, there you're going to start having the people. 3, 4, and 5 are the people. All right, the houses right next to the businesses are less desirable. It's going to be noisier, congested, and those are going to be the blue collar or the lower income. Those are the people that work. Those are the people that built Omaha, like my relatives and stuff, the people that built this city. And those are going to be the lower income houses. They're going to be smaller. And those people predominantly had to walk to get to work, so they needed to live closer, okay? You want to see that in Omaha? That's going to be the worker housing. That's going to be on 13th Street, Little Italy. If you go to the Durham Museum and go south just a little bit, on 10th Street, you're going to see right next to the old Burlington station, that's Little Italy. And the house is there. That's where you have, Sons of Italy Hall and all, okay? Little Bohemia on over on 13th Street. That's where the old Bohemian Cafe used to be, and that was a Bohemian neighborhood. And in South Omaha, you're going to see this also around the packing plants, But these are going to be smaller houses. People are walking to work. So that's going to be the lower income, okay? Not lower class, lower income. Ring number 4 is going to be the middle income. Middle income classes, these are going to be people that have a little bit more money. They can live a little bit farther away and have streetcars or whatever to get to work. Ring number 5 is going to be the rich people. That's going to be way out there. And the rich people can live farther away. And why can they live farther away? Because they've got carriages and stuff. And if you look out, this is traditionally called the Gold Coast area, okay? In Omaha, that's where the money is. And if you look at these pictures, this is the castle. If you look straight below where it says St. Cecilia's, okay, there's St. Cecilia's over on Cumming Street, 40th and Cumming. That's beautiful church. The neighborhood around there is the Gold Coast area. That's where the rich people were, okay? And right below there is the Jocelyn Castle. Uh, Sarah Jocelyn always wanted a castle, so her husband built her one. And that building is still there, and it's right before you get to Dodge Street. You'll see it, and it's beautiful. But those are the big houses. Look at the mansions and stuff. And behind the mansions, you're going to have places like carriage houses. You'll have servants' quarters and stuff like that. Can you notice this is the big money? Now in Omaha, this is on top of the hill. So up on 40th Street, if you guys are driving on Cumming Street, like going down to the thing, you're going to come up the hill on Cumming Street. Before the top, you're going to see Duchesne High School. You're going to see the TAC building on 30th Street. And as you come up to the top of the hill on 40th Street, that's where you'll see all the big houses and the mansions. Hey, rich people lived on top of the hill. Old Omaha used to flood all the time. When the Missouri flooded, it's better to be on top of the hill. Plus, they're getting a lot more breezes up north. And on the hilltop, this is where the rich people live. So if you look, it makes sense. This concentric zone model, no perfect circle. As a matter of fact, if you draw a line straight down it, that would be the Missouri River. So it's kind of like a layers out, you know. But see, that's a way a lot of cities were. When Burgess comes up with his model in 1925, a lot of cities have those different rings. Again, not perfect, but they've got them, you know. If we didn't have this COVID distance learning, I was going to try to get a school bus, and I was going to take you guys and on a field trip and show you these different rings in Omaha. Heck, you can see it basically from downtown up Cumming Street and then to the Gold Coast area. You can see these things. But see, when Burgess comes up with his model in 1925, it's like, bam, yeah, it is. But America's already changing. This is the first model of cities, but something happens in the 1920s, okay? Transportation changes, okay? The streetcars and the automobile change cities because transportation improves. That means people can move further out. If you look at the picture over there, Henry Ford doesn't invent the auto. Heck, he doesn't even really invent the assembly line. He just perfects it. He's able to make his automobile cheap enough where common people can own it. And once people in the lower income and middle income levels start getting money and start buying cars, they can live out. And people want to live out further. And this is going to change cities a lot. Transportation is the key to changing the cities. Now, the next, if you look at this picture, this is Omaha, and it starts showing what are called streetcar suburbs. Benson, Nebraska was a streetcar suburb. The streetcars ran out along basically the radial highway out to Benson, and Benson, founded by a guy named Erastus Benson, and why not name it after yourself, you know? Hey, if I developed a suburb, it'd be called Deardorphia. What the heck? But people could live out in Benson. Up in northern Omaha, Minnelusa area, up by Miller Park, it's going to be an area. Why not live up there, get on a streetcar, and come into Omaha? South Omaha really becomes, you know, streetcars change everything around. The streetcars also go out west, basically along Dodge Street, just north of it, into an area called Dundee. And Dundee springs up in the 1920s. If you look at the houses in Dundee, they all have this look to them. They're called it's like a faux Tudor, and they've got this curving line, and they've got these small garages. Next time you're in old Dundee and drive around, look at the houses, because you know what? Those older garages were designed for the cars in the 1920s, which are not the size of cars today, like our SUVs. But these streetcar suburbs, if you look at the map over here, these are the streetcar lines in Omaha. And the suburbs, where these places end, people are going to build suburbs there, and they're going to start living in that. Okay, but that changes. Now look at our next model. It's the Hoyt model, 1939. Now, by the time this model comes out, cities have changed. It's all about transportation. Now, his model, I don't want you to know every one of these little pies things and stuff. Just keep in mind, in the 1930s, downtown was still really big. Look at the downtown, the central business district. But if you look, instead of like circles, now it's going to be growth along wedges. And those wedges, if you look, are along main streets and transportation routes like streetcar lines and stuff like that, okay? And so basically, instead of saying that the city is like this model right here, and it's just each ring just kind of moves out, boom, 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 this model's going, development is now going to be along transportation corridors. Now let me show you that. Again, it's a complicated idea. What the heck? Let's just look at Omaha. Remember, ring number 2 in the old area was downtown. That's the old market. That's the area around the downtown area, okay? And that's where you have like manufacturing and stuff. Well, in Omaha, this ring number 2 has changed. If you want to see that, just drive on Interstate 80. Between Interstate 80 and L Street, which is on this map as Highway 275, is that area. If you look at the map, you see the small little lines for all the neighborhoods. Look at the big empty areas along F Street, along 275 and the interstate. And if you look, that's where Kellogg's is. That's where like Loveland Sod. That's where the big warehouses are. And if you drive on L Street, you see all those trucks and the semis. And just look north as you drive on L Street, and you'll see all those businesses. See, what happened is transportation. We also have a railroad. And along there, between the interstate, the railroad, and L Street, that's where companies, they need more area, and they start expanding west. And that's why you're going to have bigger developments there. I mean, bigger buildings and stuff. It's along the interstate, it's along the railroad, and it's along 275. As semis, as trains, and other stuff become really important, it spreads out. And if you think about it, the sectors also spread out, you know? That rich area, as Omaha kind of jumps, these rich people don't want to be in with everybody else. They move out. The new rich area in Omaha, instead of Gold Coast, which is on 40th Street, it's going to be in Fair Acres, which is, if you know where Memorial Park is, that's going to be that, okay? Now, the last of the 3 models that we'll look at today is Harris and Ullman. Now, if you look at this picture down here, it's like, what? Okay, there's still a downtown. But if you look at the map, what happens is you're going to start seeing a lot of areas way out here in this route. You see the one green square out there. So the rich people want to start moving on the outside of Omaha. They want to move out even more, okay? And you're also going to start having downtown areas or central business areas, not just focused in the middle, but they're going to develop on the edge of cities, okay? Later on, we'll talk about something called edge cities. And suburbanization really starts to spread. Look at the date, 1945. After World War II, the cities are exploding. The men are coming back to work for the war. Cities are gearing up again in the 40s and 50s. Cities start really exploding outward, okay? And transportation is the key here. Let's show you what we're talking about in Omaha again. Okay, in the old model, everything was downtown. But now we're talking about new areas, new business nuclei areas in Omaha. So I want you to think about Dodge Street, okay? I mean, when you were kids, you sat in the back of the van, you watched the little movie screen, you watched My Little, the Mulan or Little Mermaid or whatever. But now that you're older and start driving around, hopefully you notice more things in your city. So in your mind, if you start thinking of downtown Omaha and you get on Dodge Street, you go west, you're going to go past the Midtown area, which is that big development. And then you're going to keep going past, you're going to see Mutual of Omaha, okay? But when you get Dodge Street, when you get out to, like, say, 84th Street, 90th Street, you're going to notice that this becomes a new business area. At 72nd Street, we built a mall. Crossroads Mall was the first big mall in Omaha. The first true mall was down on 42nd and Center Street, the Center Mall. But anyhow, so that's going to be a new business area. And think about it in your mind. You're driving west on Dodge Street, okay? As you come up to 90th Street, after you pass all the hospitals on 84th, on 90th Street, you're going to start seeing businesses on the north side of the street, right across from Swanson Library. And as you keep going west on Dodge Street, now you're going to see another business area, Westroads Mall. And then right south of Dodge Street, you're going to see, all the businesses down there in Regency. Keep going, though, in your mind. When you get up on Dodge Street up to 120th, that's where Burke is, okay? You got that Costco just across from it. Go a little bit further, and Dodge Street, right after 132nd Street, you're going to have all these businesses on the north side. That's just north of Boys Town. You got all those big businesses there. And if you go a little bit further on 144th Street, on the south side, right across from Boys Town, they bought that land for Boys Town up, and there's businesses there. And so what's happening is you've got all these different business areas just along Dodge Street. So it's both a sector model and a nuclear model. Everything kind of changes, okay? Now, this last model we'll look at just today, it's called the Urban Realms model, or I call it the bubble model. If you look at it, basically, this is starting to say cities get so complex. Wait a second. No longer do we talk about where these things are, but look at all those bubbles. Big cities, Omaha is not a big city. I hate to tell you kids that. But big cities like Kansas City, St. Louis, Chicago, what happens is this growth out in the area, the the edge cities or these areas on the outside become their own suburbs. And people out in those suburbs want business areas to shop, Minneapolis, well, let's put Mall of America way out there. And before you know it, the suburbs become almost their own entities. You have to have grocery stores, you have to have shopping malls, you have to have all that stuff. And a lot of these things grow up on the edge, okay? And it's all because, you like in Kansas City, you got the airport, just growth out there around the airport. You've got big developments out here. And the biggest thing is you get interstates. And the interstates ring the cities. And along those interstates, that's where the growth is. Again, think about Omaha, 480. As 480 goes, you've got all the businesses along 480, and down in South Omaha and 680. So what happens is you get a lot of growth along those areas. An edge city, if you look at the map here, like on the edge of Chicago by O'Hare or some of these other places, are going to be cities that spring up that have their own downtown areas. Now, a lot of places, if you're going to put a stadium, for a while there, let's put them out on the edge of town, like in Omaha. Remember Warner Park? Let's put the ballpark out there. You've got more room, and they hope that things will develop around it. The new thing, which we'll talk about later next week, is trying to rebuild your downtown. So a lot of places have put the stadiums back downtown also. So in Omaha, when we put the new stadium for college baseball, let's put that downtown. But edge cities grow up, okay? So taking a quick look, and again, I know models are going like, ugh, but hopefully we made it simple. This first model, the concentric zone, is the way it was at first. It's cities as they're growing up. They're more compact. The sector model, as transportation changes, roads, improve, you get more cars and streetcars and everything like that, growth changes along that. Today, the multiple nuclei model, it just basically means it's not concentrated. You've got, factories out here, developments over here, rich people out here. Not like Bennington. Think about it. In the old days, the rich people lived down by the cathedral area there, okay? Now, they moved out to Fair Acres. As Omaha keeps growing out, think about like where Crossroads is and how basically all the houses that go between Crossroads up to Creighton Prep. Well, now the rich people aren't on the edge of town. So the jump is in the 1960s and 70s out to Regency. That's the edge of Omaha. When I was in high school, Burke was the edge of Omaha, that was it. And the rich people lived there. But as the city keeps growing out and there's more and more suburbs, it changes. Then, of course, a lot of rich neighborhoods jump up to Linden Estates, if you know where that is, just north of Dodge Street over there, okay? Now, as Omaha keeps growing out and more neighborhood develops, then you move out even one more time. Let's go way out. Let's go build a lake by, I don't know, Bennington, and let's move some wealth out there. And so you have these pockets. So it's not like the old simple concentric zone anymore. The multiple nuclei, it gets hard to develop cities by zones and areas, and each city becomes really unique as to geography, as to transportation, as to other factors. So hopefully this is just a simple way of showing you the basic models in Omaha, okay? And I just want you so you have the back of your mind these basic models. And if you go to a lot of old cities, you can still see some of that concentric zone. And you still see factors in sector and even the multiple nuclei. No model truly eclipses every city because every city is unique. Simple basics. We're going to build on this. Tomorrow we'll look at one more model which explains it all simplest, I think, and then the rise of the suburbs, especially the Bennington area. And then we're going to get you guys out in your assignment to actually drive around and see how Omaha is growing out to the west. But hopefully you understand this.